Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested, and today I want to tell you a little bit about this printer we've been using at the office. This is the EufyMake E1 UV printer, and this video is actually sponsored and brought to you by EufyMake, although they had no say into how we use this printer and the type of projects that we've been testing with it. We're really curious about this machine because in the past couple months, we've not only been testing, of course, 3D printers, but also been exposed to companies making printers that print on all sorts of materials. I reviewed previously a machine that used direct film printing to print on garments. And this machine I can think of as maybe the opposite of that side of that, because it's a machine that lives somewhere in between a standard inkjet printer and a full 3D printer, in that it can print full color dimensional images on basically any hard surface, dozens and dozens of different types of materials. Now let's pop open the sides here just to take a look at the anatomy of this machine and how it works. Kind of has some of the attributes of like a 3D printer. It's a very futuristic looking machine. There's what looks like a print bed here, and it's elevated, and it actually is a 3-axis machine. This bed raises and lowers, it shifts left and right, and then there is a print head here that moves along the longitudinal y-axis. That print head is very similar to like a high-end inkjet printer made by Epson. So it'll print full color CMYK plus white plus even a gloss layer on top. But it's really in the inks that make this extra special, because it's not just printing color, it's also printing a type of ink that can be cured instantly. That's where the UV aspect of this printer comes in. So with every print pass, not only is it laying down color ink, it's also curing with a UV light that ink so that it becomes dry immediately, or it becomes the first layer of a dimensional print. Now the way it works is that you open this up and you can run software on your phone or on a computer system, Mac or Windows, and you put like a material on here. So EufyMake sent us a bunch of different types of objects to experiment printing on. The most basic one is a ceramic magnet. So it has already some dimensionality, right? Some thickness. It's not just a sheet of paper. You wouldn't be able to print this normally on any type of home color printer. Put this on the bed, and with any object, if we're using like laser cutting or if we're using 3D printing, typically you have to calibrate and tell the machine how thick that object is. Like there's no QR code or there's no way for it to know what it is you're printing on. But with the software here, I can click, take a snapshot, and I'll actually, using an array of lasers, scan the top geometry of the object, and it will actually auto-calibrate itself. I found that super, super interesting and convenient. No longer have to bring out calipers, just press one button and it'll automatically be ready to print on that object. It can print items up to the size of a A3 sheet of paper. So that's 16.5 inches by 13 inches or 420 millimeters by about 330 millimeters, and objects up to 6 centimeters tall. The object has to be relatively flat. You can have about a 2 millimeter variance in the height of the object, but any larger than that and the ink won't resolve. You won't be able to see the details. So flat objects, large flat objects, or small ones like this that it just auto-calibrated. And in addition, it also takes a photo of this so it knows where you're going to drop your digital graphic on, sends it to the application, and you can immediately start dragging and dropping your graphics onto this object. In terms of what graphics it can take in, it'll take JPEGs, PNGs with alpha channels or transparent backgrounds, vectors, anything up to 45 megabytes in size. So really high detail images, because the resolution on this goes up to 1440 DPI, dots per inch, although standard printing is 720 dots per inch. So for a standard 2D print, like I do want to do on this, I've already calibrated it. I'm going to drag and drop a graphic, and let's just do a quick print. All right, so here's our print. Looking up close, at this graphic, the details are really, really sharp. And this was on standard 720 DPI print quality. Print time on this was about 5 minutes. So you think of it more on like the 3D printer side of a time scale than on like an inkjet or laser printer time scale. But we did a bunch of test printing on materials. So here are some ceramic coasters, some flat 2D prints, even some phone cases that are this plastic. Again, as long as it's flat, it'll auto scan this. Even though this is transparent, it can scan it and know the height of this material and then print perfectly on these in about 10 minutes for each of these. You can use their standard mini plate here or their larger plate, which gets you that full build area or full print area. And then you can stack a bunch of your objects and just leave it on overnight if you're doing some small batch manufacturing. But for me, it's one of the things I really got interested in once I tested with this material is I was wondering what it would be like to print on like clear acrylic or glass. What could I do with that? So here's a test print on just clear acrylic. And what I did here was I actually printed on the reverse side. I took my design, mirrored it in the software, and then told it to print color first, then the white backing layer on the back. So something I learned like printing direct-to-film for t-shirts, you want the white on the back because then when you see through the object here, it actually becomes fully opaque. And that's pretty cool. It's not actually, the print isn't on the surface of this. So once I did that, I'm like, okay, what's the next step? Well, what about an object or a design that I want to have light go through? I want to have translucency. So I immediately thought of, well, I could do like a Star Trek L-car style panel design. Took a design here, again, mirrored it, and this time told the software not to print a white backing. I don't want the colorful parts of this image to be fully opaque. I said just CMYK. And I really love the look of this. You can see the light shining behind this, but if you put this behind like a light box or put it in a shadow box and put some light against it, almost becomes a little miniature piece of L-car's artwork. And I love that it lives behind the glass here, behind the acrylic here, so there's no extra bit of dimensionality. I love what I was able to do with this. Now, speaking of dimensionality, the other really novel thing you can do with this type of printer is print with some relief, some dimension. And so while it can print on objects like this piece of wood up to 6 centimeters thick, and here again, it's just printed with no white backing, looks really nice, almost like a stamp, you can actually use the software to add a depth map. So it's not like a full object, it's not a full STL, not a full 3D model, but you can take a 2D image and tell it to generate some depth, some relief, and I'll analyze it, and then you can apply that relief on the object. So here's an example. There's a photo of Adam, and this is just in 2D, but I tell the software, generate that relief map. Now I can print something that has extra dimension. And what it's doing, it's actually not printing full color behind it. It's using that white ink. It's curing each layer of that white ink using that depth map. And then the final top layer, it's applying that color. And that dimensionality looks, it's really striking. You can see it off axis. You can actually see like the contours and the folds of the t-shirt and his nose and glasses protruding out. And that's just automatically generated. I found that there are some really cool use cases like photos, of course, like you can print your pets, but architectural designs like blueprints or buildings look really good. There's some sample artwork that their software has. So this looks fantastic. This is like almost like a relief sculpture of some classical art. And you can use their software to generate that relief map. I was wondering, well, can you also import your own relief map? And a new software update that we got actually allows us to do that. So using a piece of software called EufyMake, I was able to import my own 3D models, orient the 3D models in the angle I wanted to see the image, generate a depth map out of that 3D model, and then import it into the EufyMake software and create my own customized, almost relief sculpture here. Super, super cool. And this is not generated from a 2D image. This is actually from a 3D model, repositioned, reframed, and then generating a relief mat based on that, then imported here. Really, really neat. Takes it quite a bit longer to print using that dimensionality. So something like this magnet, which would have been 5 minutes to print, it was just 2D, ends up being about 20 minutes or so if you add up to the half a centimeter, 5 millimeters of relief that you can put on any of this. So you can print small things, you can print a lot of small things, you can print large things, you can even print on materials like canvas, something we tested. So here's a photo of Adam on canvas. Very neat, worked perfectly. The laser scanned the height of this perfectly. If you're running your own store, it allows you to customize, personalize the objects that you're manufacturing and gifting or selling. And then there's also a rotary attachment. So one last thing is that you can swap out this print bed and put in this optional rotary attachment, which then lets you mount in coffee mugs and travel cups and even things with handles. So here's a coffee mug with a handle, but if you put this in here and slide it all the way in, the laser will actually calibrate for the height of this, give you its dimensions. You drag and drop the graphic. You can even generate up to 1 millimeter thick relief on here, and then send it to print and make a personalized coffee mug. One of the things I really appreciate with how Eufy has designed this printer is how turnkey of an operation it is. The software feels polished. This machine, which we've run overnight and for hours and on end, seems to be very reliable, and they've done a lot to make this really easy to be user serviceable. Obviously, there are consumables with this. So even something like this print bed, you can replace the sticky mat if you accidentally print on it or cure parts on this. So that's something you can easily replace over time. The ink cartridges are all replaceable, and they'll sell them with a pack or individually, or in the future even have options to have an accessory to direct feed ink directly in here, because I imagine you'd be using a lot of like white ink if you're doing dimensional printing. There are also things like a air filter in here, because you're curing technically almost like resin in that ink. And so that's a consumable that over time that you will be alerted in the app about when you need to replace that. And with this type of print head, one of the things that users know is that you have to keep it operational. You have to keep it running, or else the print head can clog. And so the machine actually automatically knows how long it's been since you've last used it, and if you leave it plugged in, if you haven't used it for 72 hours, we'll go through a deep cleaning pass to put it in a standby state. And so if you're moving this machine between studios, like between houses, you can actually hold the power button down, it'll do a deep clean, and there's actually a cleaning cartridge right here that will allow you to deep clean it up to 10 times or run just general maintenance. So something I've been doing is if I don't use it for a day, then or 2 days, I'll come back and make sure I do a test print, make sure all CMYK, white and gloss and black they're all printing, all the print heads or print nozzles are printing optimally. If they're not, I'll tell the machine, hey, clean that print nozzle specifically, do a test print so I'm not wasting prints on the objects that I may only have a few of. The print cartridge or the cleaning cartridge not only has that cleaning moisturizing fluid, but also becomes the reservoir for any of the excess ink that it needs to flush out to clean that print head. So that also becomes consumable. And over time, you'll begin to be alerted about when you'll need to replace things like the ink and the filter and the cleaning cartridge, but it's all so easily done that it feels like an appliance, which is what I want these machines to feel like. So we tried this with a bunch of different materials, tried almost all of its different kinds of use cases, but we're not really in the business of manufacturing here at Tested. So what I wanted to do was bring some of these samples over to Adam's shop, show him some of the stuff that we're able to experiment with, and see if he had some ideas for how we can incorporate this type of printing technology into our production workflows. If we're doing some model making or combining this with some of the other tools that we have here in the studio. So let's get this packed up and bring it over to the cave. Adam, I come bearing some gifts.
I'm very, very, very excited. I've been watching you print from a distance for days and days and days.
And I've been teasing some of this stuff. I'm like, Adam, we can print on this stuff now.
I keep on trying not to look too deeply because I knew we were going to have this on-camera reveal. But tell me what you've been discovering.
So I've been using this EufyMake E1 UV printer, right? So it can it uses an inkjet print head, but also has a UV curing pass. So
that means it prints very. Oh, okay. So it's inkjet, but it cures, which means it's water stable.
Yes. Yep. And you're not going to get any mess. It dries immediately. It comes out dry, and you can print dimensionally on any surface.
You can print, so it can cure the layers and add to them dimensionally. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's start with 2D printing, right? So canvas is a thing that we couldn't print on before.
Yep.
And I just took, I've taken photos over the years. I'm like, oh, what's a photo I want to put on the wall? And I love this photo.
I am so fond of this photo.
Yeah.
And it looks great like this. And I've ordered paintings like this from online retailers. But this is remarkable to have this ability here in the cave. This texture is the texture of the canvas. It's not adding this.
That's right.
It is just, this is the natural texture that shows up from the process.
And one of the fun learning processes about printing on different materials is that firsthand experience of what it is like to print graphics, transparencies on different textured surfaces.
That's the thing I'm curious about,
right?
Because this is a very different topological surface than that.
Yep. And then normally you'd have to order something, get it custom made, to a print shop.
Yeah.
And now you can kind of be your own prototyping print shop.
Have you been finding that the success rate is very high on the first passes?
What I've loved is the print quality, right? I've been balancing like how high of a resolution photo do I need to import to have something print with its up to 1440 DPI print head to look good. And like their processing of the input relative to the output, it's really nice.
You're very happy with the color balance.
Very happy. There's no banding on it, right? The detail is really
the
light
nicely. And the dark is really nice, and the color is rich.
And it has a painterly quality without any painterly post-processing.
Well, you showed me this the other day, and I was like, well, wait a minute. If you could do dimensional stuff, I want to see some cool ideas with that. But I'm going to let you proceed here.
So here's printing on metal. And this is on metal that's not reflective. It's just like a metal with like a coated surface.
Right.
So it's more like just like a heavy print on a metal sheet, right? I think I like this, but it's not something I think I would go to necessarily. And what I want to try is something that's like a chrome metal. What that would be like.
Right, I'm curious about that.
And maybe a chrome metal without the white backing to let the reflectivity
I would like to see how that comes across. But also, like, dude, street signs.
Yeah.
I mean, just the possibilities are endless. It's funny. It's like you can say we can print on canvas or metal, but when the two things are in front of you, all sorts of other ideas start to percolate.
That's exactly my experience these past couple of weeks. And then I was messaging you, and you're like, well, if you can print on like metal and canvas and wood, like make me a Van Gogh.
Yes, give me dimensional brush strokes.
And here's your Van Gogh.
Dude.
So the Starry Night, there's a really high resolution scan of it on Wikipedia. I downloaded that, and then using the EufyMake software, I said, generate me a depth map. So this is auto-generated.
Oh, by the machine itself.
By the machine, and it's not exactly Van Gogh's brushstrokes, right?
Nope.
But it kind of has that tactile feel where it's like the simulacrum of what impressionist brushstrokes could be.
Listen, I'll tell you, when I look here, that looks like a person painted that.
Isn't that weird?
It's really uncanny. And some of the others aren't quite.
Yeah, like the black, like it's obviously the black was not like recessed in.
Yeah.
But I think it's
actually, I will say, one of the remarkable things about seeing Van Goghs up close is there's a famous one of like a cherry branch with a background, and he changed the color of the background maybe a couple of times because the background is dimensionally above in front of the subject.
Okay, in inverse.
But you just can't tell until you're standing in front of it. So Van Gogh, first of all, Theo was sending him so much money in oil paint, or like such expensive paint. These are like 1/4 inch thick. It's great. I just love that quality comes out of this print.
And it was, again, balancing how high do I want this relief to be. It can go up to 5 millimeters.
5 millimeters, half, okay. Wow, 200 thou.
Yeah, but I'm like, for this type of impressionist style painting, maybe I don't need that thickness. It's also finding like matching the style of artwork that's gonna make the most out of this process.
How do you get to preview the depth mapping?
It does a 3D representation.
It does?
So
You
I
can
can
literally...
like, I can turn around, I can say, smooth out my corners, increase the depth.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and it's a finding the right, like watercolor art isn't gonna translate to this.
Yeah.
Kind of like heavy oil paint impressionist art. Yeah.
My only issue with this is that I know that it's the wrong size. I gotta go find an impressionist painting of a small size for us to like make a really nice replica of.
All right, all right.
Dude, that's thrilling.
So up to 5 millimeters thick, but you can print on objects up to 6 centimeters.
6 centimeters. Oh, okay, like 2.5 inches.
So my thought was like, could we print on 3D printed parts?
Right.
Right. And there, you can only print on basically smooth surfaces with a 2 millimeter variance in height. So you're not printing like on full armor pieces, for example. But I went through...
You won't be able to get those into the machine.
No, it won't print, it won't register the print on a big curve, compound curve surface.
Gotcha.
So I was looking at some of my 3D printed parts, and this is a printed part from our Starfield build from a couple years ago.
And you put decals.
And I put decals. I'm like, well, we printed, paper decals.
And we spent a lot of time installing them.
I said, can I print directly on a primed part?
I gotta say, if I'm a special effects shop and I know that I can do production level, high quality color, bright printing on model parts and do that in bulk.
Panels, right? If we had bulk wings and panels that you can put that in the machine as long as it's not taller than 6 centimeters, and you can print right on that.
Question. So what about registration?
It takes a photo. So it takes a photo.
And then you tell it where the graphic goes.
That's it. Yeah, and I think if you're gonna do something for production where you need to be sub-millimeter precise, you probably want to build a jig and do a test print first.
Right, of course.
But even
still building a jig, 3D printing a jig to do a bunch of like, what do you call it? Like doors from a cruise ship for a miniature set?
I was thinking tiny like windows, putting graffiti on windows on a miniature, right?
Yeah.
On brick, right?
Oh, we could do some Zscale Buildings.
You could put all sorts
Actually,
of
with Zscale Buildings, you could do all the brick texture you wanted.
Yeah. Right?
This is really exciting.
Yeah, I was really excited about
the idea of real full color printing onto a model is blowing my mind.
Yeah. And it comes out dry, immediately ready, and
that's really robust. I'm actually trying hard to scratch that, and I am not succeeding. I'm scratching the paint and still not scratching the actual thing. That's fabulous.
And sometimes you don't want even at scale like the dimension of a decal. Right, or a vinyl sheet, right? And this is 0,
That's like micron thick. Yeah. Jeez, I can feel it. But
you can feel a little bit, but it's not 10,000.
No, not at all. Wow. Oh man.
I love also printing on acrylic or glass, right?
Yeah.
And this is
that's upside down printing.
Upside down printing on the reverse.
So you print it on the back side, and then that's the hero. Yeah. Oh my God, that just doesn't feel like a process we should have access to inside our own building.
Yeah. You talk about not feeling it.
Yeah, that's just so. Also, what is it about graphics that looks so much better when you print them on the back of acrylic? Yeah. Amazing.
And then without a backing.
L-cars!
Doesn't that look cool?
Dude.
This is a photo scan of the actual original prop, right?
Okay.
Which we've talked
We saw that when we were talking to Mike and Denise Okuda.
Yeah, and they talked about how back then this is an analog process, right? They use those, they painted these, and I love that you can see the painted texture in the scan of that. I know you have a table here.
Yes.
That's a little bit of a
This is a new
teaser.
workbench with a brand new feature. Shall I turn it on?
Yeah. I like that.
I always wanted a tracing table built into a workbench. I had no idea that this could be my access to my own LCAR system. Dude.
Yeah, I love this. And then the same idea with
this beautiful map. Oh man, look at that. Wow.
Backlit. Like you could put it in a light box, a shadow box.
There's so many. I mean, it's funny because we've covered such a wide range of maker projects here, from the super esoteric stuff we're interested in to book nooks that Jen made and all that kind of stuff. This printer seems to sort of supply some clutch detail across almost the full gamut of stuff we've made in here.
It fills in that 15% of process that we have never been able to do, or we've had to outsource.
Yeah.
Right, to live aside laser cutting. Like imagine laser cutting a stencil and then printing on here.
If I just have like a black surface with backlit white type on it, that is a hard thing for me to do. I've either got to cut it out of vinyl, print it 5 times on the same piece of acetate using my laser printer.
Yeah.
This makes that trivial.
Yeah. And then one final thing, there's an accessory, and I was like, let's put your logo on a big mug or a big thermos.
It's literally too large. I love that it's like, it's overwhelmingly large. I have one question I'm curious about. Can you do dimensional on so this is sitting on a roller, right?
This is sitting on a roller.
Okay, that's another attachment. God, it feels great. It's just a product.
And again, it's like it's too large, but you only know it's too large once you have the tangible thing. Once you have the physical thing.
Yeah.
On the computer, I'm like, why not that big? What could go wrong? And I print like, oh, okay, it needs to be.
I can't see the word from any vantage point.
Right.
Can you also print dimensionally on a surface like this?
I can. Do you have something you'd like to print dimensionally on a round surface, cylindrical surface?
I drew the Middle Earth map all those years ago. We've got a digital copy of that.
The one you put on the RPF. You want to try that?
Totally.
So a map on
this. That's
cylinder.
Ridiculous, but it's totally worth it.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go back and run the printer, and I'll be back in a couple hours.
Okay.
Adam, are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
This came out. I think you'll be interested in how this came out. Whoa. Oh, dude. So again, this is a depth map generated by their software.
Right.
And didn't go too crazy. You can only go up to a millimeter, but I think it's like...
Because it's a compound surface.
Yes,
gotcha.
Exactly.
Right.
But you can feel it.
You really can feel it, and the even this little amount of depth adds a huge amount of topological value, right? It feels deeper than it is.
There's a premium quality to it. There's a tangibility to it. It feels you're holding a map.
So this thing that I'm looking at, that's the print.
Yes.
So this is the printing process happening.
Yeah.
And then it's wrapping. And this is just some supplied bottles, and they included the white surface, but we're not bound by the surfaces.
No.
It's not. There's no requirement for the kind of surface you're printing on.
Correct. Yeah. With the other one, if you want to pull back that logo, I printed this one without a white backing, using the white of the bottle
of the thing itself.
Right. So that S is the white, and I can't feel that.
No.
Right.
No. It feels.
Yeah.
It's like perfect screen printing or tempo printing.
Right. But here, because of dimensionality, and there you can actually feel the edge. Like that's
real.
Base dimension.
That's
right
that's like a third of a millimeter or something like that.
And the image you sent is a little bit off white, so you can see that eggshell color, but the resolution's great. Like feeling that mountain range.
The feeling of the mountain range and Mirkwood is remarkable, and it's giving me like all of these. It's waking up stuff in my head about things that I'm like, well, we would never be able to do that. That is really exciting. And now we've got this printer. It's not a loaner.
Yep.
Okay, good.
We got this printer. EufyMake sent it so that we could try it out. And I think when we initially got it in, we're like, oh, now we can do like small batch manufacturing. But that's not our expertise.
No.
Right? We're not making coasters to sell out there.
Yeah.
But I think for projects where you're building stuff, where we're building things, and we need to put something full color on a piece of acrylic.
Yeah.
We want to print on canvas. We want to add this extra bit of extra dimensionality.
It's great. I mean, you're right, these small batch thing, but also like it adds so much quality. And I can even see, like, even in this dive that you've been doing, there's probably whole other vistas we haven't even considered.
Yeah, printing stickers, making, all sorts of decals, trying all sorts of, driftwood, printing on that, right?
Oh, wow. The robustness of the coat is really impressive to me.
Yeah.
Dude, that is...
It's another tool in our tool set. We're learning a lot. I mean, these appliances being more accessible
and being able to do more in and of themselves. The fact that you can like call up a depth map of this and spin it and really see where you're going to end up with it is phenomenal.
Yeah. We'll have, of course, links where you can check out this printer. They have an ongoing Kickstarter, and we've had a lot of fun using it, which is, I think, what we can say. And yeah, our own little cards.
Oh my God, this is so great.
Let us know what you'd like for us to try printing on, or what things that you might have seen that we've done in the past that might look cool with this process.
I'm going to wager within the first 15 comments or a couple of ideas that are so obvious, we'll be like, I can't believe we didn't think of that.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Norm. This is so exciting.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Thank you guys so much for watching that video. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you we have some excellent merch. We have a 5-pack of demerit badges for sale right now at tested/store.com. We've got the I hung it off of level demerit badge, the I built the chair backwards demerit badge, the I hit my thumb with a hammer demerit badge. We've got the stapler in my finger demerit badge, and my favorite, I stuck the duct tape to itself demerit badge. Get yours now, tested/store.store. Tested-store. Tested. It's right here. There. Just click there.